The mining vessel Helios drifted silently through the Kuiper Belt, its massive collection arrays casting long shadows across the icy debris field. Dr. Sarah Chen stood at the bridge's observation deck, her dark eyes fixed on the strange readings flooding her holographic display. After 15 years of deep space mining operations, she thought she'd seen every quirk these ancient ice chunks could offer. She was wrong. "Captain Martinez, you need to see this," she called out, her voice steady despite the excitement building in her chest. "These energy signatures, they're not natural." Captain Elena Martinez appeared beside her, her weathered face illuminated by the soft blue glow of the displays. The veteran spacer had survived 3 solar storms and countless close calls, but Sarah had never seen her look quite so puzzled. "Talk to me, Doc. What exactly are we looking at?" Sarah manipulated the holographic display, expanding a 3-dimensional representation of their survey data. "See these patterns? They're too regular, too precise. Whatever's generating them is buried about 2 kilometers beneath the surface of that planetoid." The object in question was unremarkable at first glance, just another chunk of ice and rock drifting through the void. But the energy patterns emanating from its core told a different story. They pulsed with a rhythm that seemed almost alive. Could it be leftover mining equipment? Maybe from the Chinese expedition last year? Martins asked, though her tone suggested she already knew the answer. Sarah shook her head. "This technology isn't human. The energy signature doesn't match anything in our database, and—" She paused, double-checking her readings. "It's getting stronger." The bridge fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity had been searching for signs of alien intelligence for centuries. Now, on what should have been a routine mining operation, they might have finally found it. Martinez straightened her uniform, a habit Sarah had learned meant the captain was about to make a significant decision. "Alert the science team. I want a full analysis of that energy signature, and get me a secure channel to Earth Command." "They'll want to." A sudden surge of energy from the planetoid interrupted her orders. The Helios's sensors screamed in protest as readings shot off the charts. The ice beneath the strange object began to crack, fissures spreading across its surface like lightning. "All hands, brace for potential impact." Martinez's voice boomed through the ship's comm system. "Engineering, get those shields to maximum." Sarah watched in awe as the planetoid split apart, revealing something that defied explanation. Rising from the ancient ice was a structure, if you could call it that. It seemed to shift and flow like liquid metal, but it held its form against the vacuum of space. Its surface rippled with patterns of light that made Sarah's eyes water when she tried to focus on them. "My God," Martins whispered, all pretense of military discipline momentarily forgotten. The object was roughly cylindrical, about half the length of the Helios, but its dimensions seemed to fluctuate slightly, as if it wasn't quite decided on its final form. As they watched, it oriented itself toward their ship, and Sarah felt a chill run down her spine that had nothing to do with the temperature in the observation deck. "Captain," the comm officer's voice cracked with tension, "we're receiving a signal. It's broadcasting on all frequencies." Before Martinez could respond, every screen on the bridge flickered in change. The strange patterns resolved themselves into text, perfect English, alongside what appeared to be dozens of other languages, some human, others completely alien. The message was simple: "You have awakened the seed. The trial begins." Martinez and Sarah exchanged glances. Humanity had just made first contact, but something told them this was only the beginning. The object, the seed, pulsed once more, and Sarah's instruments detected a quantum surge that seemed to ripple through the fabric of space itself. "What trial?" Martins demanded, though she knew no one on the bridge could answer. "And who's testing us?" As if in response, the seed began to move toward the Helios, its surface now swirling with complex patterns that seemed to carry meaning just beyond human comprehension. Sarah's instruments were recording everything, but she had a feeling that understanding what they'd found would take more than just data analysis. They had discovered something extraordinary, but as Sarah watched the alien artifact approach their ship, she couldn't shake the feeling that they had also just initiated something far beyond their control. The question wasn't just what they had found, it was what had found them. 48 hours after the discovery, the Helios's research lab had become a hive of activity. Holographic displays filled the air with cascading data streams as scientists worked around the clock to understand the alien artifact, now floating serenely alongside their ship. Dr. Sarah Chen hadn't slept since the encounter began, her mind racing with possibilities as she studied the seed's impossible properties. "It's not just broadcasting information," she explained to Captain Martinez, who had just arrived for the hourly briefing. "It's teaching us how to understand it. Every time we try a new approach to analyzing its structure, it adapts its output to match our level of comprehension." Martinez frowned at the latest sensor readings, like it's building a bridge between our technologies. Exactly. Sarah manipulated the holographic display, bringing up a series of complex equations. But here's where it gets interesting. These formulae it's sharing, they're beyond anything we've ever conceived, but somehow they feel incomplete, like we're being given pieces of a puzzle. "The trial," Martins murmured, remembering the seed's first message. Their conversation was interrupted by a sudden alert from the bridge. "Captain, we're detecting multiple objects entering the system at high velocity," the tactical officer reported, his voice tense. "They're not matching any known human signatures." Martinez was already moving. "How many?" 7 vessels, each approximately 3 times the size of the Helios. "They're decelerating rapidly, impossible speeds, ma'am. They'll reach our position in less than 30 minutes. Sarah followed Martinez to the bridge, her tablet clutched tightly against her chest. The seed had begun pulsing with new patterns the moment the alert sounded, its surface twirling with increasingly complex designs. "Look at this," Sarah said, showing Martinez her readings. "The seed's energy output just doubled. It's responding to their arrival." The bridge crew watched in tense silence as the unknown vessels approached. They were beautiful in a terrifying way. Their hulls seemed to bend light around them, making them appear almost crystalline. As they drew closer, the lead ship transmitted a message that automatically translated across all their systems. "Children of Earth," the message began, "you have activated a seed core without authorization or understanding. This technology is beyond your current evolutionary stage. Surrender it immediately, or face judgment from the Galactic Concordat." Martinez's jaw tightened. "Open a channel." When the comm officer nodded, she spoke with careful authority. "This is Captain Elena Martins of the Earth mining vessel Helios. We mean no harm and are willing to discuss." "There is nothing to discuss," the alien response cut through her words. "You have 20 of your minutes to withdraw from the artifact. Any attempt to interfere with its retrieval will be met with immediate correction." Sarah's tablet chimed with urgent data. "Captain, the seed's patterns are changing again. It's showing us something." Her fingers flew across the holographic interface, interpreting the sudden flood of information. "These look like shield specifications, but they're like nothing we've ever seen before." Martins studied the tactical display, her mind racing. 7 advanced alien warships against a single mining vessel. In normal circumstances, there would be no choice but to comply. But something about this felt wrong. The seed had chosen to reveal itself to them, had begun teaching them. And now, just as they were starting to understand, these others arrived demanding its surrender. "Dr. Chen," Martins said quietly, "how confident are you that you can implement those shield specifications?" Sarah's eyes widened as she realized what the captain was suggesting. "The seed's been interfacing with our systems since first contact. Theoretically, we could route its protocols through our existing shield grid, but there's no way to test it first." "Incoming transmission," the comm officer announced. "The alien vessels are powering up their weapons systems." Martinez straightened in her command chair. Sometimes the only way to pass a test is to take the risk. She opened a ship-wide channel. All hands, this is the captain. Prepare for possible hostile action. Engineering, stand by to implement new shield protocols on my mark. The alien vessels had arranged themselves in an attack formation, their weapons casting an eerie glow in the void. The lead ship transmitted once more. Your time expires. Submit to correction. Sarah looked at her captain. The shield modifications are ready, but this could either save us or tear the ship apart. Martins met her gaze steadily. The seed chose us, Doctor. Let's prove it made the right choice. She turned to face the tactical display. Engineering, implement new shield protocols. All hands, brace for impact. As the alien vessels opened fire, the Helios's shields flared to life with patterns identical to those dancing across the seed's surface. The first salvo of energy weapons struck the mining vessel and simply vanished, absorbed into the new shield matrix without a trace. The bridge crew stared in amazement as their sensors registered the impossible. Their mining vessel was somehow withstanding an attack that should have vaporized them instantly. The seed's pulse quickened, and more data began streaming into their systems. This wasn't just a test of our technology, Sarah whispered, understanding dawning in her eyes. They're testing our courage, our willingness to trust what we don't fully understand. Martinez nodded grimly. And something tells me this is just the first lesson. The Galactic Concordat ships hung in space like frozen lightning, their crystalline hulls reflecting the distant sunlight. Inside the Helios, Dr. Sarah Chen watched in fascination as new data streamed across her screens. The seed wasn't just defending them, it was teaching them with every passing moment. These aren't just shield specifications anymore, she announced, her fingers dancing across the holographic interface. The seed is showing us how their weapons work, how their drives function. It's like it's giving us an entire technological evolution in real time. Captain Martinez studied the tactical display, where the 7 alien vessels had begun to move into a new formation. Can we use any of it? That's the thing, Sarah replied, excitement creeping into her voice. We already are. The seed isn't just sending us information, it's actively modifying our systems. Look at our power grid. The ship's internal schematics showed a transformation in progress. The Helios's conventional fusion reactor was being augmented by something new, something that seemed to draw energy from the fabric of space itself. Multiple energy spikes detected, the tactical officer reported. The Concordat ships are charging weapons again, but something's different about their signature. They're not trying to destroy us, Sarah realized, studying the new data. They're trying to disable the seed's connection to our systems. They want to isolate it. Martinez's expression hardened. They want to make sure we can't learn anymore. Send word to Earth Command. They need to know what's happening here. Communications are being jammed, the comm officer reported. They're using some kind of quantum interference field. The lead Concordat vessel transmitted again, its message carrying an edge of frustration. Your resistance is unprecedented but futile. The seed core cannot be allowed to bond with primitive species. Your biological and technological development is insufficient. Sarah's console suddenly lit up with new information. Captain, the seed is showing us something else. These look like navigational calculations, but they're unlike anything I've ever seen. It's like it's mapping paths through somewhere else. Before Martinez could respond, the Concordat ships opened fire again. This time, their weapons struck with a different purpose, attempting to create interference patterns in the seed's protective field. The Helios shuddered as conflicting energies battled around its hull. They're trying to break the quantum link between the seed and our systems, Sarah shouted over the rumble of stressed metal. But look, every attack pattern they use, the seed shows us how to counter it. It's not just defending us, it's teaching us to defend ourselves. Martins gripped her command chair as another blast rocked the ship. Can we do more than just defend? The seed must have shown us something we can use. Sarah's eyes lit up. Those navigational calculations, Captain, I think I know what they're for. The seed isn't just teaching us about their technology. It's showing us how to outmaneuver them. These aren't normal space lanes. They're paths through quantum space itself. Can we use them? The seed has already integrated the necessary protocols into our dry system. What? Sarah hesitated. We'd be the first humans to attempt this kind of jump. There's no way to know exactly where we'll end up. Another blast rocked the ship, stronger this time. Warning lights flashed across multiple systems as the Concordat's attacks began to find weaknesses in their defenses. Hull breach on Deck 4. Engineering reported. Emergency containment holding. But we can't take much more of this. Martinez looked at the tactical display, where the Concordat ships were moving to surround them completely. They were running out of options and running out of time. The seed had chosen them, had trusted them with its knowledge. Now they had to trust it in return. Dr. Chen, input those navigational coordinates. All hands, prepare for emergency jump sequence. Sarah's fingers flew across her console, implementing the alien calculations into their systems. The seed's surface began to pulse with increasing intensity, synchronizing with the Helios's modified dry system. Jump coordinates locked, Sarah announced. But Captain, according to these calculations, we're not just going to move through space. What do you mean? We're going to move through time. The Concordat ships were closing in, their weapons charging for what looked like a final, coordinated strike. Martinez took a deep breath, looking at each member of her bridge crew. They were about to attempt something no human had ever tried, using technology they barely understood. Sometimes evolution requires a leap of faith, she said. Engage jump sequence. The seed's energy merged completely with the Helios's systems, and reality itself seemed to bend around them. The last thing they saw before everything changed was the look of shock that seemed to ripple through the Concordat fleet as their prey did the impossible. The Helios vanished in a burst of quantum energy, leaving behind 7 very surprised alien vessels and taking humanity's first steps into a much larger universe. But as they entered the unknown, one question burned in everyone's mind. When and where would they emerge? Reality snapped back into focus like a rubber band released from tension. The Helios emerged from its quantum jump into a star field that none of its crew recognized. Emergency klaxons blared throughout the ship as systems struggled to realign after the unprecedented journey. Status report. Martinez called out, pulling herself back into her command chair. The jump had tossed the entire bridge crew around despite their restraints. Multiple systems rebooting, engineering responded. Hull integrity at 87%. The seed's modifications they're repairing our damage. Dr. Sarah Chen stared at her readings in disbelief. Captain, according to these coordinates, she double-checked her calculations. We're over 10,000 light-years from our previous position. But that's not the most extraordinary part. What is? According to our chronometers, we've moved forward in time by approximately 3 months. The bridge fell silent as the implications sank in. They had just made a jump that should have been impossible, crossing vast distances of both space and time. The seed pulsed serenely beside them, its surface patterns now moving in perfect synchronization with the Helios's newly modified systems. New contacts, the tactical officer suddenly announced. Multiple signatures, they're Concordat ships, but different ones. Larger. The view screen showed massive crystalline vessels emerging from behind a nearby gas giant. These ships dwarfed their previous opponents, their hulls bristling with weapons that made the earlier encounter seem like a mere skirmish. But something was different. The seed's patterns had changed, and new information was flooding into the Helios's systems. Captain, Sarah called out, her voice tight with excitement. The seed is showing us something in the Concordat's transmission frequencies. They're not just communicating, they're controlling their ships through quantum entanglement. Every order, every movement is coordinated through a central network. Martinez leaned forward. Can we use that information? Better. Sarah's fingers flew across her console, The seed isn't just showing us their network, it's showing us how to access it. These aren't just random Concordat ships. This is their main battle fleet, the one they've been gathering to. She paused, horror dawning on her face. To what, Doctor? To sterilize the Earth's solar system. They were going to wait until their full fleet was assembled, then jump in and eliminate what they saw as a potential threat to galactic stability. That's why the seed chose us. It wasn't just testing us, it was warning us. The Concordat fleet began to move into attack formation, but they seemed sluggish, uncertain. Through their quantum network, they had detected the Helios arrival, but the ship's new configuration, merged with seed technology, confused their sensors. They don't recognize us, Sarah realized. The seed's modifications have made us appear as something else to their scanners. And her eyes widened as new data streamed across her screen. Captain, I don't think we were the first species the seed tested. Look at this. The holographic display filled with images of other civilizations, other species that had faced similar trials throughout history. Some had failed, retreating from the challenge. Others had tried to weaponize the seed and were blocked from its knowledge. But a few, a precious few, had passed the test. The Concordat isn't the guardian of galactic stability, Sarah said, understanding flooding through her. They're suppressors, preventing younger species from advancing too quickly. The seeds were created by someone else, someone far more ancient, to find civilizations worthy of joining a much larger community. Martinez studied the tactical display, where the Concordat fleet was still trying to make sense of their presence. So what's our next move? We know their plans now. We could take this information back to Earth, prepare defenses. I don't think that's what the seed wants, Sarah replied. Look at these new calculations it's providing. We're not just seeing their network, we're being shown how to disable it. Not through violence, but by introducing a cascade of quantum corrections that would what? That would force them to evolve. The same way the seed is evolving us. We wouldn't be destroying them. We'd be freeing them from their own technological stagnation. The Concordat fleet finally seemed to reach a decision. Their weapons began charging, energy building to levels that would have vaporized the old Helios instantly. Martinez looked at her crew, seeing the same determination in their eyes that she felt. They had come too far to stop now. How long to implement these corrections? Minutes at most. The seed has already prepared most of the necessary protocols. But Captain, Sarah hesitated. Once we do this, there's no going back. We'll be changing the course of not just humanity's development, but potentially that of every species in this sector of the galaxy. Martinez smiled. Isn't that exactly what evolution is supposed to do? She straightened in her chair. Begin the implementation, Doctor. Let's show the Concordat what humanity can really do when given a chance to grow. As Sarah began the sequence, the seed's pulsing reached a new intensity. They were about to change everything, not through violence or domination, but through the very thing that had brought humanity to the stars in the first place, the relentless drive to learn, to understand, and to grow beyond their limitations. The real trial was just beginning. The quantum cascade, initiated by the Helios, spread through the Concordat fleet like ripples in a cosmic pond. Their crystalline ships began to pulse with new patterns, echoing the rhythms of the seed itself. Dr. Sarah Chen watched in awe as the transformation began, her sensors recording changes that defied conventional physics. The network is adapting, she reported, her voice filled with wonder. Their quantum field is shifting, becoming something new, something more. Captain Martinez stood at the viewport, watching as the massive Concordat vessels shimmered with evolving energy patterns. Are they fighting against it? No, Sarah replied, studying the incoming data. They're accepting it. The seed's protocols aren't forcing the change. They're awakening something that was already there, dormant in their technology. The lead Concordat vessel suddenly transmitted, but this time the message was different. Gone was the cold superiority, replaced by something that sounded almost like revelation. We understand now. The seed cores were never meant to be contained. They were meant to be catalysts. New information flooded the Helios' systems as the seed's purpose became fully clear. Throughout the galaxy, other seeds lay dormant, waiting for species capable of understanding their true nature. The Concordat, in their fear of unchecked advancement, had sought to control this process, becoming stagnant themselves in the process. Their entire civilization, Sarah realized, was built on the assumption that technological progress had to be regulated, controlled. They forgot that true evolution requires freedom to explore, to take risks, to sometimes fail in order to learn. The quantum cascade had now spread beyond the initial fleet, traveling through the Concordat's network to reach their entire civilization. Ships across thousands of light-years were experiencing the same awakening, their rigid protocols dissolving in favor of something more dynamic, more alive. "We're receiving transmissions from across the galaxy," the comm officer reported, his voice filled with disbelief. "Other species, dozens of them, are reporting similar transformations. The cascade is awakening dormant seeds everywhere." Martinez turned to Sarah. "What exactly did we initiate, Doctor?" Sarah's hands moved across her console, interpreting the flood of new data. "We didn't just change the Concordat's technology. We reminded them of who they used to be. The seeds weren't created by some long-dead civilization. They were created by the Concordat themselves, in their distant past, before they became afraid of change." The seed's surface suddenly erupted with new patterns, more complex and beautiful than anything they'd seen before. Its message, when it came, reached not just the Helios' crew, but seemed to resonate through space itself. "The trial is complete. Humanity has demonstrated the essential quality, the ability to face the unknown not with fear, but with the desire to understand, to see beyond conflict to transformation. You have awakened not just this seed, but the memory of what evolution truly means." The Concordat fleet was transforming before their eyes, their ships' crystalline structures becoming organic, fluid, alive with possibility. The barrier between technology and life itself seemed to be dissolving, revealing a level of existence that humanity had only dreamed of. "What happens now?" Martins asked, watching as the transformation spread like a beautiful contagion across space. Now, the Concordat's response came, their voice harmonizing with the seed's frequencies. "We learned from each other. Your species showed us what we had forgotten. That true stability comes not from control, but from growth, from the courage to change." Sarah's console lit up with new data, showing similar awakenings happening across the galaxy. Species that had been held back were discovering their own seeds, their own paths to evolution. The rigid hierarchy of the galaxy was transforming into something more dynamic, more alive. "Captain," Sarah said softly, "the seed is offering us a choice. We can return to Earth with this knowledge, help prepare humanity for what's coming. Or we can journey further. There are other seeds, other species awakening. We could be part of something greater, a true galactic community, growing and learning together." Martinez looked at her crew, seeing the same mix of excitement and determination in their eyes that she felt. Humanity had passed its trial, but this wasn't an ending, it was a beginning. "Send word to Earth," she commanded. "Tell them everything. But tell them also that the Helios and her crew have a new mission now. We're going to help guide this evolution, learn from it, grow with it." She smiled. "After all, that's what humans do best. We explore, we adapt, we transform." The seed pulsed in agreement, its energy now permanently intertwined with the Helios' systems. Around them, the transformed Concordat fleet prepared to journey into the unknown, not as conquerors or suppressors, but as fellow explorers in a universe that had suddenly become infinite with possibility. Humanity had not just passed its trial, it had changed the very nature of the game. And somewhere in the vast depths of space, other seeds waited, ready to help guide the next step in the greatest adventure of all, evolution itself.